What is going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 4 live stream for the US Open. Going to break down what to expect from the golf course tomorrow, a look at the showdown and prop side of things to make sure you're all squared away with your exposure. All of your questions are answered down there in the live chat. We can go out there and finish our week strong. So first off, welcome on in. If you guys are down there in the chat already, some overachievers already saying hi down there. They got Anthony, Jackson, Metro, Michael, Mike, and Anthony. Hopefully you're having a solid Saturday evening and are ready to get after it for tomorrow. Before we get too deep into the weeds and forget to talk about our sponsor, let's go ahead and mention the Ship It Nation. Over there, they are our partner and sponsor of this live stream and are a great resource for all of your DFS needs. So outside of just the golf that we touch on here, of course, all of you guys probably play a variety of different fantasy sports, whether it's fantasy football when that comes around, you're playing NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, you guys name it. All of those sports are covered over there by Ship It Nation. And while I'm a very specialized channel, I go over here and cover your guys with a PGA DFS perspective. If you need coverage for all the different sports that you're playing, the Ship It Nation is a great crew to trust. They not only talk about a lot of plays, projections, ownership, all of that, but they're a huge proponent of looking at your own process as well. So whether you're just trying to get projections, ownership, all of that for your own process, they have the Shiptimizer being implemented, which is a huge add-on that they're have already implemented and are looking to build on in the future. And of course, if you're just looking for advice on how to play DFS in general, they're a great resource there too. So a great partner with the channel, proud to have them as the sponsor here. And code Luke10 will give you a discount off any membership. In terms of the golf course today, played a little bit, quote unquote, easier in the afternoon wave, but a lot of that was likely talent level. Your early starters had a lot of the don't give a fuck factor. If you take a look at their scorecards, and with a little bit of early wind that was called for in the forecast, you had quite a few ejections. So Matt Fitzpatrick, for example, who I played in Showdown, shot +9. You had a lot of these guys shooting +8, 7, 10, even 11 over par that were players that were starting in the first half of tee time. So part of that was the wind. The other half was, again, the don't give a fuck factor that you have with the guys going off early, and with the talent level being higher of the players going off later. I think that's really why you saw it play quote unquote easier. In reality, the greens got firmer as the day went on, and they were starting to bounce out a little bit as well. So I thought you can see towards this finishing stretch, right? 17 played more difficult, 18 played more difficult. Same thing with 15, 16, just a little bit there as well. Out there more difficult in the PM wave. Maybe the first half of that set of the waves wasn't as affected, but by the end of the day, this course was getting crusty. So over here for the Sunday forecast, it looks pretty flat once again. But if we were just trying to maybe break a tie, right? If you had two players that were 50-50 across the board, one's an AM and one's somebody going off late, I'm probably taking the AM player. Not only do they get slightly more receptive greens, they don't have as bouncy of surfaces, you're also going to get lower ownership. And for Sunday Showdown, where placement points matter, it's not like you can just take pivots for all 6 spots, but for 1 or 2 spots, that is going to be key to getting different, making sure that you don't duplicate yourself with a million different other people, and giving you some leverage to move towards the top of contests. So I'm going to have plenty of guys that have that placement point potential, especially with as difficult a golf course as what we have here. When we have conditions that are playing well over par, those placement points for the winner, second, top 5, top 10 mean a whole lot more than they otherwise would. If this was a birdie fest like the John Deere Classic, if this was a tournament being won at 20, maybe even 25 under par, we wouldn't really have to worry about those placement points, right? Even the winner, you might not even have to have out there for a Sunday Showdown slate, but because of how difficult it's going to be, it's the exact opposite. So in terms of the weather, though, I don't see a massive advantage to taking one side or the other. And especially considering that the placement points are coming into play, it's not like you could only take those AM players to begin with. So it's not really one to go out there and stack one side or the other. But I do think those earlier starters, you can see there's a little bit more wind out there in the morning. I guess that's worth pointing out at the very least. I don't think it's going to affect the players as much as the wind that we had today. But I do think you're going to get a few guys that are going off without as much to lose that make 5-6 birdies. And if they're going to give you some leverage to the field, your GPP winner, I can just assure you right now, is not going to be 5 guys that are starting in the top 10 or even 6 guys that are all starting in the top 10. You're going to have at least 2 chasers that end up being in that GPP winning lineup. So embrace that. Know that you're going to have some chasers to take this thing down. And that's how you should be building most of your lineups. Like 3-4 guys up top. Maybe not all starting in the top 10. Maybe you have some guys in that 10 to 20 range, and then 2 guys that, you're really getting that leverage on and that you're using in the earlier half of tee time. So we're just going to go through some plays real quickly. I have a Counter-Strike tournament to play with some buddies at 10 o'clock. So I've got to get out of here. They told me 9:30 so we can get out and warm up for that event. It's first time I've been doing that for a while. So yeah, I know some people might find that lame, but I have fun with it. Me and my buddies, we do it for fun. It's not that serious, but I'm looking forward to that. So let's see what's going on. Anthony had a question about my top 3 guys. Well, I'm going to give you a bunch to choose from here, Anthony. So how about we do that? I'll give you my list of plays that I like, and I'll let you choose your top 3. I like Davis Thompson Jackson. I'm at like a 7.5 out of 10 on him. He's in that range of, I think, like 10th to 20th, where if he shoots something under par, he's likely crashing into the top 15, maybe even top 10. I think he's got some potential. Cheers to that. Metro said, thank you for the prop insight. Yeah, today was really good for props. That's for damn sure. Cheers to Sunday, Michael. Cheers to that. Completely agree. Hit that like and sub button, says Mike. Couldn't agree anymore. Go ahead and do so, guys. And hey, yeah, if you're hopping on in here, guys, just go ahead and smash that like button for me. Get it done. Get it out of the way right now. Only thing I ask from you guys here on the live stream is to go out there, hit the like button, spread the love out there to more people, and you can ask me any questions that you've got. So whether it's props, DFS, go ahead and fire down in chat. Again, only thing I ask from you is you go out there and smash that like button. What's going on, Bart? Just chilling out here on a Saturday. Loved the golf today. Again, have that Counter-Strike match here in a little bit. But looking forward to tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. What's going on, Jackson? Who we like in sub 7K? You're going to have a few guys to choose from when we go through this. You just paid for your full month on the Patreon. Good stuff, Eric. Glad to have you on the team. Got in on Bryson plus 425. That number has to be a lot better now. So cheers to that. Good stuff. And you got a 84 today. That's a pretty good score, man. I've been shooting a lot of 84s recently. My handicap is there in the high to, I don't even know, the 10 range. Like it's normally around a 7.5. It has been close to 5.5 at like the peak of COVID when I was playing a lot. And now it's starting to dwindle a little bit, but good shit. 84. I've been shooting a lot of those recently, unfortunately for me. Appreciate that, Frank. What's going on? You almost broke even with 27% Fitzpatrick. That's almost impressive right there. Big Teeth Fitzpatrick owes us. You guys are drilling in on him. I like it. Hit the like button, folks. You heard the guy. Clarence says you're in 46th place in the big GPP. That's a good spot to be. You've got Finau. The Finau crash cost you a little bit. It's not terrible. If you're in 46th place, you could still take that down. So I would like to have a lineup that high up. I think my highest is like top 500 at this stage, but good stuff. And yeah, we're not playing the old CS. We're playing CS2, obviously, here at this stage, which has its differences. But hey, this isn't a video game stream, that's for sure. My brother used to be an old pro in the sport, so I'm very well versed in all of that. So let's just talk through some of our plays. So like I said, we got to get through this a little bit quicker. Because we're only going to talk up certain players does not mean that they're the only players that I'm taking. My player pool is going to be a lot larger than what we're talking about here. For my entire player pool, all my exposure, of course, check out the Patreon page. But the point of this is to show you where I'm taking my stance. There are going to be players that I'm excluding at higher ownership. And then some stands up top like Rory DeChambeau, for example, that I'm playing regardless of that ownership. In order to offset that, we're going to need some of the earlier starters for that leverage in that differentiation. Whether that's a 6-7K player that you're taking for a little bit of salary savings, or even going down here and taking a Cam Smith. So there are going to be different types of players that we're mixing in. There's going to be chalk, leveraged plays. There's going to be some mid-tier plays that I'm mixing in as well to give you a good idea of where my exposure is going to be. And it's not so much to give you guys, quote unquote, plays right out there for tomorrow. It's more so to give you guys a perspective for how I'm making my player pool and how I'm going out there and attacking this kind of slate. So up top, you've got Rory DeChambeau. DeChambeau's got a really good chance at winning this event. But if anyone's going to run him down, it's likely a Rory. Maybe a Cantlay and Aberg could run down Bryson DeChambeau. But really, I would cut it off at -2. I can't see somebody at like even -1 getting the job done. But that's not to say that that kind of player can't finish top 5. So I think those kind of players still have placement point upside. But if you're looking for the raw winner out there on Sunday, I think it's a short list of players that can actually get the job done. And I know Pavon's up in that mix as well. He's probably a little bit less likely to win just because of pedigree, the fact that it's his first time in contention out there at a major championship. But it is going to be quite entertaining to see who gets the job done. In terms of who I'm taking as my conviction plays, you can't play all the studs that are up there at the top end of the board. So that would be players like Rory DeChambeau, right? Again, Aberg, Cantlay, even Morikawa you could throw into that mix, and Hideki. You can't play all of these guys. Heck, even throw Xander into that mix as well. You're going to have to pick and choose your spots. So for me, guys like Rory DeChambeau, I'm going to be playing. There's at least one more guy up there that I am playing in my lineups, but the other guys I'm out there and fading for my Sunday Showdown lineup. So guys like Aberg, for example, Cantlay are in at relatively high ownership numbers, both of them over the 20-25% mark. So if you're going to pick spots to get over the field on, again, you just can't play everyone out here towards the top end of the board. The only way that you could play all the quote unquote chalk up here would be if you went out there and you were a 150 maxer. If you were just matching the field on a lot of those sort of players, you could do that in a 150 max kind of format. But if you're entering anything less than honestly 150 lineups, you'd probably be maxing out a contest to do that sort of thing. It's not the kind of strategy that I would advise for. So I won't be 150 maxing for Sunday. I usually go a little bit lighter out there for my Sunday Showdown exposure, which is why I'm picking and choosing my spots up top. So Rory, Bryson, just the players that I think are the most under control of their game right now. Bryson, of course, your highest win equity of anyone in the field. And then Rory up here at 11,500. He's got the best skill set fit for the golf course. I played him heading into the week. He's a player that I expected to see in the contention. A lot of that because of his short game, which is really at top 5 at least out there in the world in terms of his shots gained around the green. That's what matters out here Sunday under the gun in a major. So I like Rory a little bit more than guys like Aberg and Cantlay because they trust his short game more than those other two players. So we'll have to see the pin locations. I'm assuming that they're going to be nasty, which means that even your world's best players, even your best ball strikers are going to find themselves in some pretty nasty spots. And they're going to have to get out of it, going to have to try and pull Houdini out there and pull off a miracle. And Rory tends to be really good at doing that. Going down a little bit further, Collin Morikawa's at even par, so within striking distance of that top 5. And because he's not under par and you've got Aberg, DeChambeau, Cantlay taking away ownership, I've only got him at 14.6%. So if you played him in 35% of your lineups, you'd be over the field right there, which is right about where I'm expecting to be on Collin Morikawa. And really not that much that has to be said. He had an excellent round of the day today out there for moving day. And while we probably shouldn't expect that for Sunday, I mean, that would be great if we get another -4 bogey-free round, even -2 and, maybe it's like 3 birdies, 1 bogey, go out there and finish top 5, top 7. That's likely enough for Collin Morikawa. So I like the price tag. I think $9,400 is more than fair for somebody like Morikawa, and he works really easily as a second man in. And I think that's the key with Collin and why I like him so much. A lot of it comes down to that price tag. Down here in the 8K range, our first true pivot is going to be Cam Smith, who I've got at about 6% ownership. Maybe me mentioning him, boost him up to maybe closer to 7% or something like that. But either way is going to be a play you can get some leverage on. The reason why I'll take a shot on Cam Smith is that he's not somebody that gets a chance out here in majors very often. He's on the Live Tour. You have guys like Bryson, DJ, for example, John Rahm, who had to withdraw from this week, who oftentimes when you've seen him in majors have tried to take advantage of it. I mean, look at Bryson this year, right? Top 10 of 2 majors out here winning after 54 holes. You had Brooks winning last year. These players don't just fall over and take it lightly. I mean, even Terrell Hatton out there trying to do his best in his one shot out here in a major this year. So Cam Smith, I'm not expecting him to go out there and just completely mail it in. And he's a solid birdie maker. He's maybe the best putter that we have in this field. And now that he's not protecting his score, he's +5. He's out of it in terms of winning this golf tournament. I like him to go pin hunting out there on Sunday. So it could go sideways quickly. Any of these pivots that you're taking that aren't in it heading into the Sunday's round are going to have a lot of a really low floor, I should say. They're going to have a lot of variance involved out there with their score. If they're playing well, expect them to be aggressive. And if they're hitting the ball well, maybe they do set up a lot of birdie looks and can go out there and post some birdies. However, if they're not playing well and they get out of it mentally, it could go really sideways and they could even have like a negative fantasy score. So just know that when you're playing somebody like Cam Smith. And the whole point of playing him is not to take him as one of your core plays, like 40, 50%. That would be foolish. Out there for Sunday, it's to take little bits and pieces of players like a Cam Smith to get different in spots. If you're being chalky with a guy up top, so maybe you're starting with a Rory DeChambeau, and then you're taking some chalk down there in that 6-7K range, which I am in a few instances, well, you've got to get different with your 8K range, right? You can't take chalk with all 6 spots. That's where somebody like Cam Smith really comes in handy. So it's all about the build that you're going for. And because I am playing some guys with ownership down there in the 7K range, I'm going to have guys like Cam Smith to mix in as a maybe second, third man in out there in lineups. Next up, we've got Tom Kim, a little bit higher ownership here, so not really a pivot play like you'd have there with Cam Smith, but starting at even par like Morikawa does have upside to finish top 5, top 10, and with anything under par, 1-2 under par would probably be an optimal play. Down here in the 7K range, we've got Minwoo Lee at +4. I would consider him a pivot there at only 8.5% ownership. So it's not like he's completely unowned, but still sub 10% there. So if you take him in 15 to 20% of your lineups, you'd have leverage, which is where I'm assuming I'm going to come in on somebody like a Minwoo Lee. Aaron Rai, a little bit more chalky. So he would be an example of somebody that, I'd be taking at higher ownership down here in the 7K range. And it's because of the placement, right? He's starting at +1. I loved him heading into the week. One of my top plays, bet him for that placement. I believe it was a top 20 out there in the outright market. So obviously I hope he holds on to that out there on Sunday, but somebody that I think could move up the leaderboard, could post something like -1, -2. And at $7,300, that would be optimal. So he's one of the few pieces of quote unquote chalk that I'm taking down there in the 7K range. And because there's a few examples like that I am mixing in, I guess I'll just tell you, Sergio Garcia, I'm playing as well, right? At +1, I'm coming out there with a little bit of ownership. If I'm going to take those sort of guys in my player pool, I've got to have some way to offset it up there in that mid-tier range. So that's why guys like Cam Smith were a necessity to go out there and point out. Keegan Bradley, a pivot I would take at 8.5% ownership. So a player that I think just has some upside out there without a lot to lose. And guys like Keegan are already very aggressive. You give him, no lead, right? He's not up there in the top 25 right now. I'm expecting him to be out there pin hunting. Down here in the 6K range, Højgaard at +5, a player that I'll take for a little bit of a bounce back. Really had a sour day out there for moving day, but pretty much everyone did. Scoring conditions were brutal. Now that he doesn't have a lead to protect, no pressure out there on Sunday, maybe he's able to turn it around and post what he did for rounds 1 and 2. And then lastly, I've got Mark Hubbard down here at 6,500. He's +3, so believe it or not, he's closer to the top of the leaderboard than I think most people would realize when they're going out there and building lineups. And I've only got him at about 5% ownership. So there are a few examples of guys down here that fit that same description. Mark Hubbard's one, David Puig as well. I've got David Puig at about 6.5%, 7% ownership. If they're going to be sub 10%, and something like -1 might even get them into the top 10. I mean, +1 might be a top 10 finish out here at this golf tournament. That would be an optimal performance out here at $6,500. Hell, even a -1 to get them to +2. Maybe it's like 3 birdies and you shoot a +1 or something like that. That kind of performance would be pretty damn close to optimal at $6,500. So there are a few guys down here that fit that kind of description. And that's it for the highlighted plays. Like I said, I've got to keep this moving a little bit quicker than usual, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how I'm attacking this kind of slate. If I'm taking big stands on guys, really, getting over the field on chalk, it's mostly up top, maybe a few guys down there in the 7K range. And then you've got to have spots to offset that ownership. So whether you're taking all your chalk up top and all your pivots down low, whether you're kind of mix and matching across the board, when you're actually going out there and building lineups, you can't do it mindlessly, right? You can't have lineups where it's all 6 guys just starting in the top 10. That would be foolish out there from an ownership perspective. You shouldn't have lineups that are all guys starting at like +4, +5. That would also be extremely foolish. I think The best way to go about it would be to have at least 3 guys starting in the top 15 out there in every single lineup and at least 2 pivots in every single lineup. If you want to adjust off of that a little bit, maybe it's a 3-3 build, maybe it's a 4-2, et cetera, you can kind of tinker around with it a little bit, but that's how I would go about it out there for your Sunday showdown. So I'll catch up on any specific questions that you guys have now. And afterwards, we're going to talk about props. So go ahead, smash the like button if you guys haven't already, and let me know if you have any specific questions. Paid for the full membership yesterday and you're up 1.8K on Underdog. That's the point of the Patreon. So good stuff, my man. And that should pay well over a year's worth of Underdog then, right? You just paid for your membership 15 minutes ago. Hope we all make money. Hopefully you did. Aldolfo says you got 3rd place in the $250 4 max with a 120% max percentage. So for cumulative ownership, is there anything you can do to get first? Dude, if you finished in 3rd place in a big contest like that, I don't know if there's that much you really want to change about your process. That is a fantastic finish. I don't know if you want to be that results oriented. I think that is way overdoing it, man. Regardless of what you're looking at, whether it's DFS, whether it's anything in life, first off, give yourself a pat on the back for the 3rd place. That's a pretty sweet finish out there, if I'm going to be honest with you. And second off, yeah, don't change much. That's a good spot, dude. What's going on, Kep? Who's going into the top 10? So if you're looking for somebody outside the top 10 to surge a little bit, my favorite option, see, I don't have a lot of them on here, but maybe Mark Hubbard. Mark Hubbard is starting outside the top 10, something 1-2 under par, might get him up into that. He's probably the best option from the live stream. You think guys +2 or worse will mail it in? I don't think so. Just to give you an idea, +2 in terms of a score is tied for 16th. So you think that guys tied for 20th, that's +3, by the way, are going to mail it in at a major championship? You're absolutely full of shit, right? If you have to go the whole way down, by the way, to +6 for the fact that you get down to 40th place, these guys care about finishing in 30th at a major, right? Maybe not Rory, maybe not Scotty Scheffler. That I agree with. I'm not playing Scotty out there for Sunday. There's probably a reason for that. But if you think that somebody like Højgaard is going to mail it in at +5 and he's there at T32, you're sorely mistaken and you just don't know what you're talking about. So I'm not trying to be too harsh about that, but you're completely wrong. That this isn't the John Deere Classic. This isn't Rory McIlroy playing at some slapdick PGA Tour event. This is the US Open, and plenty of guys that would die to be here, let alone to go out there and have a chance at a top 20 out there in a major championship. You're full of shit, dude. Not everything's about your fantasy lineups out there. These guys are playing their dream out there, playing in a major championship. They care, trust me. Even if you don't, even if you're just here for fantasy or whatnot, there's a lot bigger things going on. And I can assure you that they care out there on Sunday. Maybe not everyone. There's going to be exceptions for sure, but 95% of the field is going to give a damn out there tomorrow. And again, it's not all about the fantasy and all that. I'm sure that's why you made that kind of comment. Like, no, they're not going to mail it in. They care a lot. Any love for Blair or Berger? I like Berger, Blair not so much, but both are in a decent spot to move up the board. So I think that if you're taking them in GPPs, they make a lot of sense. LOL wrecked. Yep. Dude, some people just say some stupid ass shit. And like I said, I don't want to be rude about it, but just don't say stupid shit like that. That's like a moronic ass comment, right? That guy made. Really have nailed this week. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Every single entry is top 100. There you go. Went heavy on Bryson and Aberg. Hopefully it holds on for you. There's going to be a lot of variance out there Sunday. I will say, though, that if you have 100% or at least heavy on guys like Bryson and Aberg, you're in a pretty good spot. Yeah, and even though Brooks didn't play that well, you're still in a decent spot there. I wish I had more guys like Bryson, Aberg, myself. I have a lot of the scrubs that ended up playing well this week, not so much those kind of guys. I got to say, Bryson, I'm a big fan of him, but I didn't expect him to do that this week. You're betting DeChambeau outright and will hedge accordingly. Yeah, that's a strategy to go with. Hey, you do you with your own exposure, right? That's absolutely applicable. All right, let's do some prop stuff. I got to hop out of here soon. So in terms of the prop content for this, I'm going to show you guys the averages, and then we're going to take a quick look at the board. For all the prop slips that I'm entering, go ahead and check out the Patreon page. That's where we're going to keep that out there for Sunday. Behind the paywall, it's been 3 straight profitable days out there for props. And I believe like some of the only slips that we've been missing are the ones that have a couple that I've posted here on stream. So maybe if we keep them behind the paywall, they'll not all go out there hit. We're going to have a lot of exposure, but maybe we'll come close to a sweep this time around. But in terms of the prop averages, stroke average was actually a little bit harder than round 2, which if you were just looking at talent level, you probably would have expected it to get easier. But like I mentioned on the live stream yesterday, they were going to make this more difficult, right? After the cut line, you don't have 156 players out there to play on the entire day. You can make it harder because the rounds can take longer. So you saw pin locations tucked even closer to some of those runoff areas. And the result of that was absolute carnage. Birdie average was about the same, but the bogey average went through the roof. It was almost 5 per round at 4.94. Your fairway average was about the same, so that didn't move much. But with those runoff areas, it was really hard to hit and hold greens. So that green regulation average went down to 8.95 per round. So the main movers here were your strokes went significantly up, your bogeys went significantly up, and your greens went a little bit down. Now, out here for Sunday, I think it's going to only get more difficult. So Underdog did post the pin locations, and while I haven't gone hole by hole quite yet, haven't had the time to do so since the round ended, I'm assuming when I go through these, I mean, it's Sunday at the US Open, for goodness sakes, that they're going to make it hard, that they're going to make them even more diabolical than what we had for Saturday. And hole number 3 was moved up. That was made drivable out there for moving day. That's not likely going to be the case. Now, hole 7, I've heard some rumors that might be moved up. So we're going to have to keep an eye on hole number 7. I think 13 was also a candidate for potentially being moved up as well. So they might still try and tinker around with that kind of shit. But the main thing that I think we have to focus on here for Sunday is that this course is only going to be more difficult than moving day. Your birdie average is likely to go down a little bit. Your bogey average is probably going to be over the 5 mark. Your fairway average probably doesn't move. Now, it's hard to change that, right? Because the fairways don't move. There's no pin locations. They can move tees around. Now, that can change your fairway average a little bit out there, but that's going to stay pretty stagnant out there day to day. Green average, though, is likely to go down a little bit with those tougher pin locations. So that's what I'm looking at out there for Sunday. And based on pricing, it's likely going to be a lot of fades. That's what I did for today. I only ended up taking fades on Underdog. I didn't even enter anything over there on Prize Picks by the end of the day. And I'm assuming that Underdog is going to be a little bit more optimistic than Prize Picks. They have been the entire week. And if that's the case, then they're going to be the spot to take fades. So just going through this, they've got like Scheffler at 3.5, some of your other elites at 3. So that's a good data point to see here. Let's refresh Underdog, see if they've got a full board posted. And like I said, we might do like one slip here together, but a majority will be posted on my Patreon page because I got to get going here. Like I said, I have a Counter-Strike tournament to get to, which should be fun. Hopefully we can win, but let me see what we have for this pricing. So it looks pretty similar birdie-wise, at least. That's the main thing I'm looking at here. The strokes might be 0.5 lower in a few cases, but they're not as off as what we had for yesterday when there were 1 to 1.5 stroke discrepancies. The bogeys, they still have some at 3.5, which based on conditions likely getting harder is going to be a spot I probably fade. Brooks, by the way, I know somebody was mentioning the, giving a fuck factor before. Brooks is the kind of guy I could see not caring. Like most guys are going to care out there Sunday. Again, like 95% of them. Brooks is the small minority that I could see going out there and mailing it in. The reason for Brooks is he has 5 majors. He has no chance at winning this. We know that he doesn't even care about your regular tour events because they're not majors. You're not going to go out there and get an accolade. He doesn't care about 30th, 40th, right? So if you're looking for someone to mail it in, it's that sort of player, not the vast majority of the field. So, but he could potentially be a look there. Bryson with the lead could always be a fade, just knowing that he's going to be under immense pressure tomorrow. To do a little bit of line shopping, they do have Bryson at 71.5 strokes over here in Prize Picks, and he is at 3 birdies. So if he's at 71.5, that's implying him to make at least 4 bogeys, right? If not like 4.5 out there for a projection. So I don't think the idea of taking this over on bogeys, maybe even this over on strokes at 71, is something that I'll consider adding to my portfolio. So let's leave the bogey prop in there for right now. Rory, I'm going to add in at 3 as well. He had a pretty good round today, but you'd have to think with harder pin locations, Sunday pressure, that all these guys might be a little bit prone to choking. So my favorite prop here out of the bunch is, let me get a sip of this. My throat's killing me right here. Favorite's probably Bryson. Second favorite's probably Brooks. The push equity with Rory at 3 is not terrible either. Let's see if Caesars has a board posted. They didn't have these posted before I went live, but I brought them up just in case. And so, yeah, it looks like Caesars has came through and posted a board. What I'm going to peek at are these bogey lines. So They've got Tom Kim at 4.5, and he's juiced way over. We've got Bryson at 4.5, and he's even money. So yeah, 3.5, that is obviously value. Let's take a look at these other two. So they don't have Brooks posted, but I guess we could line shop on the Roy line, who they have at 3.5, and he's juiced over. So obviously with the minus 150 juice and the 0.5 discrepancy, that's likely a little bit of value. And Brooks, though they don't have a line posted, he's going off earlier. He's not in as solid form. You'd have to think that he's probably even better value. So where was Bryson again? Yeah, Bryson was 4.5, and he's about even money. Is there any 4.5 juiced overs? Let's see. So Tony Finau is. So let's look at that. Patrick Cantlay is at 4.5, and he's juiced over. That could be a look as well, which, by the way, Cantlay went under today. He's one of the few guys not to go over his bogey line. So, yeah, he's at 3.5 as well. So I kind of like that because he's got the juice and he's that entire bogey higher. And we get the bet against Patrick Cantlay. I kind of like that because I don't like Patrick Cantlay. Let's see that. Yeah, Garcia looks good for round 4. I agree with you, Joanne. 100% with you. Hey, it's your opinion, not yours. Yeah, I understand that. You're calling me a clown, dude? Yeah, dude. Says the guy watching someone else for DFS content, trying to pretend like they knew what they're doing. Yeah, dude, you assume that everyone that's not +2 or better is going to mail it in. So 16 players are going to go out there and not mail it in. Yeah, dude, I'm the clown, not you, for that kind of clown take. So anyways, that'll be your last comment out here on the channel. I have no problems banning you and sending you on your way. Especially if you're just going to throw moronic takes like that down there and chat and waste my time and waste everyone else's time out here on the live stream. So let's go ahead and take this combination out here. I'm not sure if I can even enter this because of my limit over here in Underdog. So let me see if I can. Oh, I could actually. I could enter that combination. So it's going to be the over on Brooks that's going off early, out of form, maybe doesn't care, right, compared to some of the other players. And then the Cantlay one is one that we could compare to the sports books. You have the one discrepancy and juice for the over there. So that is undoubtedly value to go ahead and mix in. And then the other one, you have to imagine if they had a line for Brooks, he'd probably be at 4.5, maybe even money, if not slightly juiced to the over, like guys like Patrick Cantlay. So just to give you an idea of why I would say that, they have Cantlay at 71.5 strokes on a lot of these sports books, and Cantlay is at that same, Brooks, I should say, is at that same kind of number. So if anything, he'd be in the same kind of pricing range as somebody like Cantlay, especially because he's also at the same birdie or better number. In terms of a prize picks board, I don't know if we're going to have a slip to enter here because, again, I didn't even enter anything on prize picks today with some of the pricing. I'd be looking for fades if we're going to enter anything on this site. And I guess we'll do some line shopping compared to the Draftkings and FanDuel and figure out what we're doing here. But on Draftkings, you've got a lot of guys at 72.5. Looks like some of the elites are juiced under there. So that's likely why they're at 72 strokes over there on prize picks. So Brooks is juiced a little, 71.5, a little bit towards the under, I should say. What else do we got? Yeah, a lot of guys that are at the +2 or +2.5 mark, it seems, for their projections. So it looks like prize picks is pretty spot in line with what we have on the prop sites, which is very common. It's why I think prize picks is the sharper prop site out there. They tend to take their lines from DraftKings, from Caesars, and just use those out there on their board, as opposed to Underdog, which will take stands against players or for players a bit. So I'm sure that goes their way every once in a while, right? Them taking stands. But at the same time, if you're a plus EV better, Underdog is almost like a paradise out there for your golf bets. So yeah, it might just be Underdog that we go with. But let me go through this, I guess, just to make sure that we give it its full diligence. So they do have some late guys that we could fade. So like Aaron Rice stuck out, but just I guess to compare, I don't think he's juiced towards the over that heavily or anything. Like he's minus 135 towards the over. So it's not like that's crazy value. Davis Thompson, let's see, does he have a line? I'm assuming he doesn't, just because he's not one of those top end players. So yeah, nothing to compare to over there on prize picks. But like maybe you take him to shoot +3 or better. Like it's a 73.5 line. That's pretty disrespectful if you ask me. And Davis Thompson is not a half bad player out there on the PGA Tour. If I was going to give you any sort of lean, I don't hate this one with Davis Thompson. He is a step down in talent from guys like a Minwoo, a Tom Kim, a Jordan Spieth, for example. But he should probably be at like 72.5 or 73 strokes. The fact that he's at 73.5 is why I'm considering the under. If he was 73, I probably wouldn't touch this prop. But because he is that 0.5 higher and +3 would be a hit, he's definitely something I'll at the very least consider entering. Let's see, Pendrith at 73 too. Like if this was 73.5, it's like the same thing as Davis Thompson. I'd probably enter this slip out there with 2 unders. If we want to make this a 3x payout, we're going to have to go out there and find a fade to mix in with this. So perhaps we look at that end of the spectrum and try and find somebody to take a stand against. Pavon at 73.5, that feels like a pretty decent projection. I'm more so looking for guys at 72 that are teeing off later to fade. So at 72, we're looking for somebody that's a little bit erratic. I would qualify Sam Burns as that kind of player, but unfortunately, I know compared to the sports books, it's not going to be that great value. I guess just to give you guys that comparison, he is at 72.5 on books, but juiced a little bit under. So it's not like an over at 72 strokes even would be like the worst lead in human history, but it's also probably not the best one. So yeah, we're not going to do anything here in Prize Picks. Again, I got to hop on out of here to get to that tournament I was talking about, but we already went over that slip over there in Underdog. Give you guys an idea of some of the averages and what I'm expecting for tomorrow. This place is going to be brutally hard. I think the birdie average likely goes down unless they make one of those par fours drivable. I think you're going to see even more bogeys with the course firmer and faster, even more bogeys because of the harder pin locations. So if you're going to take like an under on strokes, it's got to be somebody that's at like 73.5, like we had here with Davis Thompson. So just be super selective about any positive stance plays that you're taking. And then Underdog is likely going to be the site where you take most of your fades. So that's it for that side. I guess let's do pick 6 real quickly. I know there's some people that tune into that just for that on these streams. So let me bring that up for anyone that's there. In terms of birdies are better, a lot of 3.5s, actually just not a really big board in general when it comes to birdies are better. But yeah, I don't think there's that much that stands out for me there on that birdie side. Let's look at strokes. Yeah, this board kind of sucks. Like I'm sure that there's some fades that you could mix in, like Henley at 71.5. That seems like a prop that I'd be considering. 70.5 for Bryson. I would definitely at the very least consider mixing that in. These would probably be my favorite 2 props. Let's see, pars. Yeah, I hate par props. Let's not even look at that. Let's look at birdies are better. So we're trying to find like an under here to go out there and make this a slip. So do they have Pavon up here? I don't think they did, but let's double check. They do. They have him at 2.5. He may have a line over here on Caesars that we can compare to. So let's see. So Matthew Pavon's at 2.5 and he's juiced a little bit under. Yeah, so maybe you do something like this on pick 6. Honestly, the best prop category that you can do on pick 6 would be some of these overs on strokes. The unfortunate part is if you tried to enter like these 2 overs on strokes, it's going to tell you that you have to have an under to mix in as well. So that's a little bit annoying. That's something that you might have to figure out yourself. I think some unders on birdies would be a way to make that work. Fantasy points is probably another category that you can consider using for that. Just going through this, I guess, to spitball a few ideas. Let's see. I don't really know how their fantasy point scoring works, at least on pick 6 out there. But you could probably look at some unders over there on that as well, assuming that the pricing makes sense. So that's it for the prop side. Let's see if there's any prop questions. If not, we're hopping on out of here. And yeah, didn't mean to click that. It's just not creating any confusion. Where are we at? Do I see the top of the leaderboard being pretty volatile? Yeah, for sure. There's going to be guys that eject. With hard conditions like this, you're going to get a few guys that eject. For sure. So you shouldn't be only playing guys that are starting in the top 10, right? That's what I was saying before. Maybe 1, 2 in the top 10, maybe a few guys in that 10 to 20 range. There's going to be plenty that fall back, but the guys that stay there are the ones that you're going to have, right? If they're making 3, 4 birdies and they're finishing top 10, that's probably an optimal performance. You appreciate how I handled the troll. Imagine coming on a stream just to talk junk and doubling down. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that you appreciated that. It happens a lot. That's just what happens in the content world. People online like to act like the big bad wolf. They say things that they would never say in person. They'll make moronic takes and double down on them because, they have to die on that hill online. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm used to it. There's always bad apples out there, that's for sure. And I'm not afraid to put them in their place, that's for sure. What's going on, Michael? He said, took your stand on Bryson, just pissed that Justin Thomas screwed you. Yeah, me and you both. I played him this week too. CJ says, good luck at the tournament. Will that be streamed? It will not, CJ. No. I'm hanging with my buddies. We're just having fun with it. And no, absolutely not. There would be things said that don't need to be heard. Double Dogleg says winning score. My guess for it is -6. If I had to give you a winning score, I think that Bryson's probably shooting over par tomorrow, if I had to guess. Wouldn't put it past him to have a really good day, right? That's why I'm playing him in some of my Showdown lineups. But if I had to just give you one number, -6. Maybe it's Rory shooting -2 and winning, and DeChambeau going backwards. Maybe it's Cantlay having the day of his life, going out there and shooting a few under. Hideki going nuclear. I don't know. If you get to -6, I feel like you win. All right. Let's go ahead and hop on out of here. That's all I've got for this live stream, guys. Hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared for tomorrow and ready to go out there and smash your Showdown lineups, your prop slips, your outright bets, whatever the case may be out there for Sunday's action. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing you guys the content for this week, and hopefully we can go out there and finish this week strong. Of course, for next week, we've got another signature event. We've got the Travelers Championship. So if you're looking for content over there on that side, make sure to check out my page for all of that next week. We'll have a course breakdown there Monday morning, DFS and betting previews as per usual. And if you enjoyed the Showdown and prop live stream, we're doing the same thing for rounds 2 through 4 next week. So make sure to tune into all of that. Smash the like button if you guys haven't already, and go out there and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the content to come. Appreciate the support here, like I said before, and I will catch you guys throughout the rest of the week.